Oh my goodness, it's the famous John Stamper. How are you? I have to
I'm
put my
doing, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How
I
you
have to
doing?
I have to wear my sunglasses because you're so bright.
I knew that was a prop for something. I knew I was setting myself up for something.
It's totally true though. You are an amazing person and you are a staple in this dental our dental community. You've done so much. It's awesome because I've known you for such a long time now. We go way back, and you always interview hundreds of thousands of people, it seems, all the time. And I thought I'd take this opportunity and interview you. And I'm kind of nervous because you're the expert interviewer, or and I'm just a little baby here.
Well, we're going to have fun. We're just going to have a conversation. And,
Absolutely.
it reminds me of the first interview that we did when you were in your practice at Stonebriar and you were getting ready to venture out with A-flexX and do all the cool stuff that you've done. So, this is awesome. Yeah, I
I
love this.
know, I know. You sent me a funny little clip. Um, it had to have been probably 2016, probably 17, of you and me talking, and it was super short, and I was laughing so hard because it was my first time being interviewed for A-flexX, and I was like fumbling with my A-flexX, and you were just sitting there going, "This girl." But John, thank you so much for doing all the things that you do. So it's pretty amazing. And
Absolutely.
as someone who is interviewing you, I want everyone that's in the dental industry and in general just to hear your story and your humble beginnings to now.
All right. Where should I start? Where
I
should I
think you
start?
should start on your history in dental in general because that's where, I know a little bit about it, but maybe not so many people do.
Okay. So I was uh it sounds like a movie trailer. The year was 2004. Uh it was 2004 and I had been working as a financial planner for a company called Edward Jones for a couple of years. Loved it, was excited about it. I was doing it in Southern California, and it was not too soon after September 11th. So as you can imagine, at that time, looking back, it's crazy to think it was that long ago, but the market was hectic. I was out knocking on doors, trying to build clients. And I did it for a couple of years, did the best I could based on where I was in my life at the time. But had a friend of mine that had mentioned that there was a position opening with a company called Brasler USA. And so took advantage of that opportunity. For those that don't know, Brasler is known for the diamond burrs and polishers and carbides and all of that. And in the last however many years now they do endodontics and hand pieces and hand instruments and all that stuff. But I came on board and I was working as a handpiece specialist covering all of California and Las Vegas. So that was my territory. I would work with the sales reps, and it was crazy, Aurelia, because at that time, Brasler had a lot of relationships with some of the top key clinicians in the world, Dr. Frank Spear and Dr. Robert Winter and Dr. David Hornbrook, and they were all out on the West Coast. And so I would have this opportunity to go to their practices and put handpieces in there and go to their lectures. And so I just got immersed into dentistry really fast by doing that and visited tons of dental practices in California in 2 years. And then moved back where I'm from in Ohio, worked as a regional manager, had a a territory or I guess a region of 12 or 13 reps and did that for a couple of years and then moved to the home office and we set up an inside sales team. One of the things that we recognized was that there were a lot of people that wanted to be in dentistry. They wanted to work for a dental company that sold products, but they didn't always understand dentistry. So we built a program, kind of like a farm system, where we would train newer reps, newer employees that came in. They would cover the phones and talk to dental practices and sell stuff over the phone. But then whenever we needed to backfill a territory out in the field, they would come from the home office. And so the whole idea was to make sure that they understood dentistry. And so did that for a couple of years. moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and went on the other side of the desk. Got an opportunity to work with Mortensen Dental Partners. At the time, I want to say Mortensen was a DSO that had about 70 practices. And that was kind of a unique situation. At the time, Dr. Wayne Mortensen, they had grown years prior, but had kind of leveled off a little bit, and they were looking for some opportunities to grow. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, maybe I can go spend some time with, 5 to 10 year practices. And if I see an opportunity where I can help, great. If not, we go our separate ways. And so they were willing to do that. I kind of took a chance. And I went into these practices, Aurelia, and as coming from the sales world, dental sales world, the only thing I knew what to do was to look for opportunities. Like, how could the practice grow? Like, where are the opportunities? So I dug into at that time, it was Open Dental, and I found this unscheduled treatment report, and I pulled it up, and I was like, holy cow. And I started asking people in the practice, I was like, is this dentistry that needs to be done? And they're like, oh yeah, we just haven't had a chance to get to these people. And I started adding up the numbers, and I put together this report for the leadership team at Morton's. And I said, okay, so I went to 10 practices, and in 10 practices in the last 6 months, there's like $7 million in unscheduled treatment in just 10 of your practices, and it was crazy to look at it like that from a DSO perspective. Now, this was in 2012. So you got to think this was 10 years ago. And yes, the DSO market was moving up, but for a lot of these DSOs, they grew so fast, as you can imagine, they just didn't quite understand. They were seeing patients, but they weren't necessarily always spending the time to understand the patients were coming in, and then they were going out the back door, and they weren't getting all the care that they needed. We were really concerned about growth and acquisition. So that was my job for a couple of years, was to go around to all 70 practices that were a part of Mortensen across the country and work with their teams and try to find ways on how they could get some of that treatment done. So I did that. I was in an office one time, and there was 2 hygienists that had got audited by their dental board, and they got fined because they were missing some certificates. And I just remember sitting there at that time and thinking to myself, well, that's kind of interesting. Like, what do you usually do with your certificates? And they're like, well, we just, we put them in a manila folder or what have you. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do it. So that's where the entrepreneurial bug started to happen. And so I had this wild idea, got together with a couple of guys that I had worked with in the past to start a company and leave Mortensen and start a company, which was back in 2013, called the Dental Exchange. It's crazy to me. I'll have to actually get you the video, the very first video that we built. Maybe you can build this in when you show this, because it's funny to watch what the vision was then and to watch kind of how things have evolved in dentistry. We were just too early, if that makes sense. Like, we had created a tracking tool for dentists and hygienists to track their CE. We had created a thing on there called SubHub. So when a practice needed a sub, the whole idea was to have the practice put their information in. And if you are a hygienist or a dental assistant, you'd put your information in, and then the system would connect the two. We built a job portal. We had forums on there. We had a section for like CE courses and professional resources. And so, but right off the bat, we had the opportunity to work with the Kentucky Board of Dentistry. And I thought, this is amazing. They said they wanted all 7,000 of their dentists and hygienists on the platform. And the whole idea with the platform was to use the CE tracking tool as our free service to get them on the platform so that we would have an audience of people that could, use the job portal and what have you. We could start to monetize it. So right off the bat, the Kentucky Board of Dentistry wants to work with us. They want to use the tracking tool for their board. And I'm thinking, we have 7,000 new members. We're just coming out of the gate. And I thought, if we can actually get 5 or 6 or 7 dental boards in the next 6 months, we're going to have 50,000, members on here. This is going to be unbelievable. Well, to date, there only ended up being 1 dental board, and that was Kentucky. And so just for a lot of different reasons, was never able to get the dental boards to work together in an effort to grow. And so I spent many years from 2015 to 2017 and 18, kind of in this pivot. I continue to try to grow the company. And then in 2017, I decided well, it's interesting because what I loved about my first couple years in dentistry was getting out and being in the dental practices, working with the dental teams, going to shows, so on and so forth. Same thing when I was working with Mortensen. It was going to practices, working with the dentists, hygienists, the office managers, all of that. When I decided to start the company, I went into this like introvert, mode where it was all about building this platform and in an effort to be able to launch this company. And I missed being out there and connecting with people. So I was sitting on my couch. I'll never forget. It was August of 2017, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. Right? I'm just going to start interviewing people as a way to get back out and connect to people in the industry. I kind of lost myself a little bit, and so I just learned. I taught myself. This was back in 2017 when podcasting was starting to become popular, but there wasn't that many people in dentistry doing it. So started a podcast, and I think in that year, like you mentioned, probably interviewed 150 people. Didn't charge anybody. There was no monetary plan with it. It was just an effort to be able to start to connect the industry with people that were either companies that were bringing products and services or speakers, presenters that were doing CE courses. So Digital Trade Show and Digital Classroom, those were the names of the first podcasts. And then in 2019, the trend started to move a little bit, and there was an opportunity with some of the technology to start taking that on the road and going to dental shows. And so in January of 2019, I went out on a limb, used a new little video software package called Switcher Studio, and went to Vanessa Emerson's event and said, hey, why don't we live stream this event? We'll stream it to your Facebook page. We'll highlight your presenters. We'll do interviews with your vendors. And in 2019, ended up doing probably 45 events around the country, back to back to back, traveling all over and doing that same thing. And then 2020 happened, the pandemic, and everybody went from in person to virtual. And that was a crazy year. Virtual events, trying to figure out ways for people to still connect with their audience. And then as the pandemic was over in 2021, made a decision with DentalCast Productions, the media company that I started in 2019, to start to build a remote model, to start to leverage the interview experience that I had built and do things at scale to where I'd be able to do more, interview more people, create content from a remote perspective, and quite frankly, not travel as much. I got to the point in 2019, 2020, was very exhausted, very burnt out. It was tons of fun to get out there and to be able to showcase all the great work that everybody was doing. But as you can imagine, it was very, very exhausting.
Yeah, I
So
remember you flying around everywhere.
yeah, it was crazy. And when you're doing something that you love, you it's funny because you don't get caught up in. I mean, I remember it wasn't until almost the end of 2019, 2020 when we were able to start monetizing DentalCast and producing videos that the organizations we work with would purchase and so on and so forth. It was probably the middle of 2020 where I literally was the first time I dug into my financials to say, wow, like we're generating revenue. I just was going so hard, so fast in an effort to create content. Because as you know, when you're doing something that you love, you're just that's what you're in your lane. You're in your lane, you're doing it, and you wake up and it was 18 months later, and it was it was interesting. It was interesting to have to kind of make that shift. But we did that, and then kind of towards the end of last year, 2021, had this very interesting opportunity to be able to work with Dental Whale. I had done some things with Dental Whale, over the years, interviews and so on and so forth, but had an opportunity to connect with them, and they needed some help building out their learning business. And continuing education and dental education is something I've always been very passionate about. And so that's where I am now. I started there in January, helping manage the learning business, which is Laura Nelson's Front Office Rocks. It's Dr. Scott Luna's Breakaway Seminars, two very prominent people in our profession that have helped so many people. And then DentalCast Productions is now becoming a part of Dental Whale. So a lot of the media and the production stuff that I was doing is now becoming a part of Dental Whale. So that's a lot.
And but it's awesome. And you've done I mean, I just remember back in, like you said, like 2019, when you decided to start interviewing and doing the podcast. I just thought, wow, this is great. You interviewed me, and that was a blessing for my company. And you do such a great job all the time. I mean, you're amazing, and I'll never forget. And maybe not a lot of people know that you actually did how many days was it? 3 days live at Stonebriar Smile Design? Was it 2 or 3?
Yeah.
I can't remember. I feel like it was
I
three.
think it was three. Yeah, I think it was three. It was Chris Carson was there and Jordan,
Yeah.
and I actually wasn't there. I was on the other side watching, but
Yes.
the whole idea was to live stream 3 straight days from your dental practice,
Yeah.
to just show a different side of dentistry,
Yeah.
show, Dr. Jill, or Dr. Jill
Dr.
Wade,
Wade. Yeah.
yeah, and some of the unique things that she was doing. It was kind of something new that we were excited about. When you watch videos for dental practices, you see the stock, sit down interview, you see those types of things. You never really got a chance to see like what's going on in the operatory, your conversations with the patients, what was cool. And I think this was a lot because of the relationships and trust that you and Dr. Wade and the team at Stonebriar had built, is that your patients were willing to get filmed, which it's the
Mhm.
very vulnerable thing to go to the dental practice and sign a waiver and say I'm gonna get filmed while I'm in this chair. But it was neat. We were trying to be super creative. I think at that point it was, what can we do to showcase dentistry in a different way so that people could see it. There's just this feeling that I had that we were moving towards this world of media and moving towards this world of more people being able to build their brand and kind of getting away from the old world of media. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of work. I mean, the team came in and put cameras everywhere in every single operatory. Um, there was some crazy. There was it was fun, and then it was live and it was real, like for real, real. There was no
It was real.
staging anything. I remember that there was something. There was a young lady. Her name was Stacy. She texted me, and she said, tell your dental assistant to put her mask over her nose because she's walking around with it below her nose. And it was so funny. I'm like, oh my God. Like that was something someone picked up. And I'm like, well, thank you. And I'm like, hey, make sure your mask is over your nose. I mean, but
Right.
so many people this is way before COVID, right? But we should have been doing universal precautions at all times. Um, but yeah, it was just little things like that you don't, as a dental professional, you see another dental professional doing something that's not supposed to happen. They're going to take notice of it. So that was a neat time. And there's a lot of good stuff that came out of that. Your team did an amazing job. I mean, it was a lot of
Yeah,
work.
it was a lot of fun. We did a lot. We did a lot that I'm proud of. It was very challenging, especially the pandemic, which was challenging for everybody.
Mhm.
But there's this element to want to be able to support some of these live events that we had been booked to help anyways and produce content for and interview the companies and the presenters, and then having those organizations not knowing what's going on, having to cancel their live event and still find a way to be able to get out their presenters to an audience, create websites, bring in I mean, it's funny when I look at Zoom now, and when I look at people doing interviews now on Zoom and some of these other platforms, where this industry was in 2020 with people presenting at virtual events and so on and so forth, their skill set, like how they've upped their game. It's crazy, really. Like, I mean, it was very challenging because you would have some of these great presenters that were known in the industry, great on stage. And listen, I mean, to their credit, like they had never really lived in this virtual world. And so the lights and the microphone and the internet and all these things and this new way for them to present where they were on a screen and they weren't in person, it was very difficult for a lot of people. And so but it's been really fun to watch how the dental industry has come through that. And now we're on the other side of it. It is interesting because I remember even before the pandemic happened, having a lot of conversations with some of the bigger dental meetings and trying to present to them, say, this is the future. We were going to a lot of these meetings and wanting to live stream and so on and so forth because we just had a feeling that, if people couldn't come to the meeting, let's cast a wider net and let's get your word out to more people.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, like that was taken with uh, there's a lot of different opinions on that. A lot of the meetings were very concerned. They didn't like that idea. They thought, well, we don't want to do that because then people won't come in person. And then all of a sudden we woke up in March of 2020 and you couldn't come in person and they had to do something.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
That's why I wear these sunglasses for you, John, because you were a super trailblazer way before. I mean, you had that vision, that visceral feeling in your gut that this is the way things got to go, because you're just an entrepreneur and a futuristic thinker. And it just the download comes naturally to you, like it just does. And it's a beautiful thing, because you're a beautiful human being. That's all I got to say. I mean, there's just.
Yeah, very sweet of you. And listen, it's I mean, anybody that's watching this that is currently building something, has built a company, it's grueling, I mean, there's just no way around it. And so I know you have created this Wellness Wednesday, which I think is so important, and it's so timely, because there's the element of us as professionals running, surviving, trying to make a name for yourself, trying to create a company that solves a problem, that adds value. And so often what gets lost, at least for entrepreneurs and founders of these companies, is taking care of themselves, So I know that was a big thing for me, was learning how to do both. And it's funny, when you go back, when you were on camera a lot over the last 5 years, you have this library of where you can, watch yourself, and you can look at kind of where you were at different stages. And it's crazy for me to think, like, mentally where I was then, mentally where I am now, see the visual comparison. But wellness has got to be a big part of it. It really does. And so, I love what you're creating here, because I think that's the next step for so many people. It's like, how can we find a way to still build a successful business, whatever it is you're doing, but at the same time, take care of yourself, so that you can sustain yourself, quite honestly, so that you can stay healthy and you can be there for the people that need you.
So I know that you are an avid bike rider, but tell me about that, because that's how you do it. Like, I remember when I first met you, you weren't as active. I mean, I know this because we talked about it, and I'm like, oh, what do you do? And you're just working, and you're just putting your nose to the grinding stone, and you're just in it, deep. And you didn't take care of yourself as much as you are now. So explain that to us, and tell me, like, what do you do to keep healthy?
Yeah, I think everybody has triggers, right? And I think safe to say that the pandemic was a trigger for a lot of people. We're seeing it now. Now that a lot of the data is coming out and a lot of the stats are coming out, we're recognizing that for many people, unfortunately, that got very sick or passed away, or had family members that got sick or passed away, the statistics are showing now that a lot of those people that contracted COVID, and for whatever reason, for a host of a lot of reasons, were not healthy, or as healthy as they could be. That was the lion's share of people that it took a heavy toll on. So I think for me, that was a trigger. I mean, I had to slow down. We all did. I think for me, it was like going from 80 miles an hour down to 0, because it was, yes, we were still busy. So that was the trigger. And like a lot of things that I do, I see an idea and then I just get started, which is kind of the my little mantra that I'm doing now, this little 90-day challenge, because I just have learned over time that it's one thing to get excited about things and have a grand vision. It's a whole nother thing to just get started, whatever it is that you want to do, because it's the energy and the momentum that will come from just getting started on something, the lessons that you learn. And so that's what I did. I decided to get a Peloton bike, and I just in a rash, I ordered it, and it was one of the situations I've learned for myself over the years that I will not go to a gym. If I have to get in my car and drive there or go somewhere, what's probably going to happen is that there's going to be something during the day that's going to come up, and it's going to be 1 or 2 blockers, and I'm not going to go. And so what I realized is that unless I can do it in my home, in my basement, where all I have to do is go downstairs with no friction, that was the secret for me. And everybody's different. Some people, when they exercise, they love to be with a group of people, or they like to be in a class. That's That's kind of what they like. That's how my wife is. She has to go with people, and that's what motivates her to go. But for
Yeah.
me, it was the bike, and it's just become just a central part of what I do. When I wake up in the morning, 4 days a week, it just becomes a habit.
Yeah.
Just don't like to go without it.
You wake up very early too. I do know this.
Yes, yeah. And again, I think that's another thing that you realize is that
Mhm.
when you look at all the things that you want to do, and you're realistic and you're honest with yourself, you're like, shit, there's probably not a lot of time in the day to do all these things unless I really figure out a way to get organized.
Yeah.
And so again, I knew that if it got longer in the day where I would set it out, okay, I'll just exercise later in the day, it's not going to happen. I just knew that about myself. So mornings, 4:30 in the morning, up primarily every day except the weekends, and get on the bike.
Yeah. So your 90-day challenge, I see it. I love it. You have a lot of great inspirational messaging, I look at it and I relate to like everything that you're messaging, because as an entrepreneur, business owner, I mean, or starting something, you need that inspiration to keep going. So I want to hear more about this 90-day challenge. For everyone out there that is on LinkedIn and any social media. Basically, I've seen it on LinkedIn the most.
Yeah.
Is that where it's at?
Yeah, I put it on all three channels. So
Okay.
I put it on my Instagram channel, Facebook, and then LinkedIn. It's this whole social media world is a part of our lives now. And I want to get back to
Obviously.
this. Yeah, I want to get back to this in a second because I'm one of those unique people. I love social media and I love it for the good reasons, right? Like we all know that there are not good reasons. There are not good things about it, but I think we could agree, Aurelia. I mean, anything that in life there's the good part and then there's the bad part, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's finding the good. I mean, when I think about the amount of people that I have had the opportunity to be able to showcase all the great people in dentistry and think that it was all done on social media, how can that not be a good thing? If I had an opportunity to talk about a company that had a product or service that a dental practice discovered or somebody that they know discovered that, and then they purchased that product and then they put it in their practice and then they start to help their patients, like how is that not good? So
Yeah.
I've always looked at it for the good. As far as the challenge is concerned, again, it's another thing. When I do those, it's part done in an effort to be able to help people that might be going through the same things that I have gone through or am going through. And it's part therapy for me. It's one of those things that once you put something out there like that, day 1, day 3, day 5, day 7, and you put that out in the universe and people start to recognize it, like you just said, and I stop after 15 days, what's going to happen? Hey, where's day 16? Where's day 17? And so it's somewhat of a therapeutic way for me to hold myself accountable out there, out in the public space. And yeah, I mean, it's nice to know that people can draw from it. A lot of those thoughts and quotes just come from things that I pick up and read from people that resonate. Some of them just come from being on the bike and then thinking about them when I'm on the bike and then wanting to put them out there. But like you said, connecting them, the whole idea is to get people to stop in the middle of their day and to think a little bit and to reflect. There was many, many years that I did not do that. It was like just, 0 to 80. And I've learned over time that you got to give yourself permission to stop.
Yeah.
So that's what it's for.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, I read them. I like them. I love them. I share them. So thank you for that, because it's good messaging that you're putting out there. It's quality. That's all I gotta say.
Well, and as you know, wellness is a lot of things, right? It's your physical wellness, it's your mental wellness, I mean, everything.
Emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just
All
so
of
much.
it.
Yeah.
All of it. You may know this more than I do because you do a lot of this work or what have you. It's just that I feel like there are so many people out there, especially with what we've gone through in the last couple of years, that we're just starting to see the impact of what the pandemic, has done to us socially. And so I just, again, my hope is, and it's a nice little trend to see things like this that you're doing, that people are pausing and they're learning to take care of themselves. Like hopefully they see that, our health is important, for a lot of different reasons. The energy that you have, and I have heard a lot of people say, well, why do you exercise? Why do you take care of yourself? And what I've learned is that really it's because you need to be there for others. I mean, I think in a lot of cases, I mean, I have 5 kids, and that
Which is
range in
amazing
age.
to me.
Yeah.
Tell what's
And
the ages? I want everyone to know the ages of your
so
children.
23, 20, 14, 8, and 6, soon to be 7. So, let's just call it like it is. Like I'm either on the bike to take care of myself, or quite frankly, so that I can just keep up. That's a big part of it. But it's true. I mean, I think that the shift in wellness is that, initially, as you know, Aurelia, like a lot of people want to exercise, take care of themselves, and it needs to be somewhat of a selfish thing in the beginning, right? To kind of motivate you for a lot of different reasons. But then as you do more of it, you start to recognize that the reason why you're hopefully, taking care of yourself is for others, the other people, the special people in your life, the people that you work with that need you, and that I think that's a big shift that hopefully we're starting to people see, is that they want to take care of themselves, for those that they love, that are in their lives. So
That's a good message because it's important. That's really important. It's a lifestyle too. I mean, when you become healthy, or when you start incorporating wellness into your lifestyle, it is a lifestyle. It's not a trend. And that's what, there's a lot of things like losing weight and fast diets and things like that. But those things don't work. You have to actually just live a lifestyle for your healthiness to be healthy. Is a lifestyle completely.
and let's call it like it is. It's hard, right?
It
I
is
mean,
hard.
it is nice to see. I feel like we went through so many decades where, especially in our country, where it was, it was admirable to be to be the runner, to be the person that's always striving to be the best, to be number one, and so on and so forth. And I think we're starting to see that there are definitely some good things of pushing yourself to get to the next level, but there also are some bad things, some not so good things of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I also think that people are now much more comfortable opening up to talk about that. A lot of these things that you want to do to get to the next level, whatever it is you're doing, it's hard,
Mm-hmm.
and even in dentistry. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've been going to dental meetings for years. There's this interesting trend where you're seeing dentists. I didn't necessarily see this in the early days because it was very difficult, maybe for a dentist, if they were presenting in front of their peers, to show their mistakes. But right, you know where I'm coming with this.
Yeah,
Like there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
attached to that, like how these people they're coming to see me, and I got to show them all the good work and all that stuff. And yet, it is encouraging to see. I think that a lot of our clinicians now, with courses and things that they're doing, they're showing their mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
showing that anybody that gets to such a high skill level in dentistry has had to go through a lot of ups and downs and mistakes and learning curves and so on and so forth. So I think that's encouraging. I think people are more open to want to talk about those things, and I think that makes everybody a little bit more real, more authentic.
Well, that just reminds me, I mean, that my uncle, he's a dentist, and he was just here receiving his third time learning, a lifetime learning achievement from the AGD. So he was in Orlando. I was just at the meeting over there, and I got to see all these people, become fellowships and then get their mastership at level. And I remember working with him when I was young, and he was going through all this stuff, to get his, his AGD, become a master, and then, everything. And I just remember all the things that he went through and the mistakes he made. And now, now he's doing his third lifetime achievement, for continuing education through the AGD. And you're right, like there's a lot of mistakes, some things came back, that you're not perfect. Nobody is in dentistry. We're always striving to be perfect because we work in such a small mouth, and everyone's very critical of the skills. So I agree with you. It's important to show, because if you don't make mistakes, you can't learn. You
Yeah.
can't move forward. So it's never a failure. It's always, failing forward.
Yep.
And that's where, I mean, I can relate to that completely. Like everything that I do in my life, if it was, I mean, hindsight, I'm like, oh, I should have done this. Well, I didn't. Now I just got to go forward. And you
Yeah.
got to just keep trucking through, kind of like you and your journey, John, with the starting, in Brasler and then going here and trying to make this big platform and getting all the dental boards to do one thing so that it makes it easy for us as hygienists and dentists to keep their CEs in one spot. I mean, it's brilliant. And then you just got to keep trucking along,
Yeah.
and that's what you've done. And I could see that in your career and your family life, and it's pretty amazing. And overall, keeping healthy like you made that journey, and you're forging forward all the time. And I think that's the message here, looking at your story, is that you have to just keep going, and going. And if there's something that's in you that you want to do with your life, you just one step, 1 foot at a time. But you got to just keep going. You got to put that foot forward, and then in order for it to make a trail.
Yeah, because what other option are there, right? I mean, there
Yeah.
are other options, but they're not good ones.
Yeah.
And I think what we're all learning is, I mean, true joy comes from accomplishment,
Yeah.
not comparison. It really is. I mean, think about it. I mean, I love sports, love basketball, love football. I mean, all of them. I mean, I grew up. My mom was just a sports maniac, jumping on the couch, watching the Cleveland Browns when I was like a kid. I mean, that's how I grew up. So it's like just in my blood from Northeast Ohio. But I mean, there's nothing better than when you get to the end of the season and you watch a team that wins the championship or wins the title, and like you just see the emotion, because like like everything they had to go through in order to do that,
Mm.
and yeah, so I think that's big, and then not giving up, like you mentioned. I mean, I think about the whole CE piece. What a lot of people may not know is the original company, Dental Exchange, still exists. It's under a new name now, CE Exchange, and through all these pivots, was able to find a way to be able to offer a service that I'm really excited about. I had the opportunity a little over 2 years ago to partner with the American Association of Dental Boards. So in an interesting turn of events, Dr. Robert Zena, who was the president of the Kentucky Board of Dentistry when I started my company, he then became the president of the American Association of Dental Boards, which is a national association of which all the dental boards are a part of. And him and I put our heads together a couple of years, and we said, the whole process of accreditation and certificate distribution and getting the dental boards involved with the new way of CE for the future has got to change. And so we created the Dental ACE program, and it's a way for dental speakers or anybody that gives content, that they want to get accredited for continuing education. They can do it through the Dental ACE program, and a lot of the certificate distribution is streamlined. We're sending all of the data to every dental board in the country. So every time a certificate is sent out, the dental board has access, with the hopes, Aurelia, that the dental boards can make policy decisions based on real data. So in other words, if there are certain types of continuing education courses that need to be happening now because it's 2022 and not 1987, well, we need to get away from that. But in all true fairness and out of respect for the dental boards, which regulate the license for professionals, they need to know what CE is being given out there. The only way that they can do that, like you mentioned, is in a central database. So in a long and winding road, I'm excited about where that is going. That's just an example of just like, continuing to connect the dots and not giving up and trying to solve a problem.
Exactly. And then you can't give up. I mean, I have my, and that's been a love of yours from way back, right? So you started that a long time ago. And I personally remember you telling me about that journey at a fire pit, when I was, helping you with something, an interview or something like that. And you're just telling me your vision. And now, I mean, it's just coming full spectrum right here. And right, like now it's like from there to here, but it's still got to go from here to there, and it's making its way.
It's always work. I mean, I think that's the big thing, and one of the things I'm hoping that people are starting to realize is that there's the short game, they call it the finite, and then you got the long game, which is the infinite. And so what we're hopefully starting to see is that companies are realizing that it's about the infinite, it's about the long game.
Yep.
It's about kind of getting out of this, rat race of the quarterly reporting and everything having to be done, on a month-to-month basis. I mean, yes, in running a business, that always has to be a part of it. You got to be a good steward of your profit and loss statement, and you got to be profitable, or you're not going to be able to continue to do, just like a dental practice, right? I mean, I remember talking to a hygienist about getting that unscheduled treatment done, and then saying, I don't want to come in this practice and be working in a patient's mouth and be thinking about money. And I thought to myself, I get that. I understand that. But if you're not keeping this practice profitable, then you're not going to be able to continue to do what you love. Like, that's just the nature of a business.
Yeah.
I think the sooner we are honest with our dental professionals and teach and educate them that that is important, then the great thing about dentistry, as you know, Aurelia, is that then patients get taken care of. I mean, if that unscheduled treatment gets done, if 50% of that unscheduled treatment gets done, those patients are that much closer to being 100% healthy.
Yeah.
So it's all connected. It's all connected.
Yeah. And if you're not getting that treatment done, I'm just thinking about the whole, infections and being more unhealthy. And you're not doing your patient any justice if you don't get that treatment scheduled. It just goes full circle. Yeah. And well, John, thank you so much for being part of this Wellness Wednesday. And your journey is incredible, and you're doing great things like always. And I hope you continue doing them, and more to come, I'm sure.
Well, and likewise for you. Like I said, it's been fun to watch you grow and evolve. You took a big chance when you were a hygienist, a very successful hygienist, an amazing practice with a doctor that we both know and love, who was awesome, Dr. Joe Wade. But you took a chance and you ventured out and you started a company. I say it all the time when I get a chance to interview companies, is that there's just nothing better than when a dentist or a hygienist or dental assistant or office manager sees a problem that needs to be solved because you dealt with it. And then you that chance and you go out and you take that risk and create a product or create a service in an effort to solve that problem. Like, it's the highest level of credibility you can get because you know it, you saw it, you've been there. So congratulations to you and all the stuff that you're doing. And now here you are interviewing people. It's just
well, around. I mean, the Wellness Wednesday is designed to help people, like you said, promote wellness. And I know, you talked about your wellness, but also, there's just so many things too. I'm going to be having some environmental people come on and talk about the health of the planet and, and realistic statistics of what's going on and with plastic and things like that. That's a huge passion of mine, as you know, to stop single-use plastics. And I think that's important because microplastics are getting in our body and we don't know what's going on with them because they break down. And that's a whole other topic that I love discussing. But so, this is all things that wellness all is inclusive. Like, we're here with the planet, we're here for our own health, and we got to do something, or else children and your children's children and so on and so forth. It's just, things are just going to get a little bit more scary.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, thank you so much, John. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing all the things that you do.
My pleasure.